All right. Thank you for joining today. Today we'll be learning about QuickBooks integration with GreenRope. We use GreenRope, or we use QuickBooks with GreenRope with the web connector. So it's really handy to actually utilize when you want to like do your bill tracking and income expenses and whatnot. So I'm excited to share this with you. It should be a short and sweet webinar. So we'll just go through our agenda, um, and then we'll end with a Q&A at the end. It's good to see familiar faces who join us monthly and new faces. So I want to welcome you guys to our monthly webinar, for everyone joining in right now. So without further ado, let's get started. So hi, my name is Ian Quantico. I am the education manager at GreenRope. So my duty entails all of the education components, including webinars, but also your training sessions, discovery calls, and anything education related. So many of you have done some training sessions with me, and for those who haven't, looking forward to doing those sessions with you in the future. And you can find me at ian@greenrope.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn as well. Let's move forward. All right, so what is on our agenda for the topic of QuickBooks integration with GreenRope? So we'll begin with a quick poll. It'll be actually my first time doing a poll using this system, or the screen share or webinar platform. So hopefully it works out pretty well. Then we'll move forward to the topic of what is QuickBooks, based off of the results of the poll previously to that. It'd be interesting to find out who kind of already uses QuickBooks and who will be using QuickBooks with GreenRope. Then we'll be doing an introduction to QuickBooks and the applicable versions. So there are specific versions that we'll be discussing. I will have it all listed out for you. So then the next topic will be the features of the QuickBooks Web Connector. So in acronym form, it will be QWC. So if you see those acronyms, it's basically the web connector for QuickBooks, and the features with GreenRope. And then I'll be demonstrating how to download it and also set up the QWC file, which will take up most of our webinar. So we'll follow along with that. Next, we'll be talking about actually using QuickBooks with GreenRope, as it's pretty simple, but there are specific areas that it will basically be mainly a feature. And then the other methods of integration. So there's one more method other than the QWC file. And then we'll finalize with a Q&A session and just prepare any questions that you got for me, and I'll answer them as they come. So let's get started. All right, so now is the time for the quick poll. So let's see how this works. I'm gonna click poll. All right, I'm gonna launch a poll, and essentially you should have like a window that pops up, I think, based off of demonstrations. So are you familiar with using QuickBooks for your business? Yes or no? And also, number 2, do you currently use QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online? So a couple of important questions, specifically number 2. So I'm interested to see kind of how it plays out. All right. And a little bit more time. Got a little timer. Let's see. Feel like just 10 more seconds or so. All right. Okay. Thank you for participating. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Yeah. So let's see. Let's share the results. So let's see. 100% of our attendees use QuickBooks for your business. And number 2, looks like it's kind of split a little bit, but majority uses the QuickBooks Desktop, and also the other half will use QuickBooks Online. So that is good information. Thank you for participating. Lets me kind of know what to really talk about when we get into this further. Let's close out of this. All right, let's move forward. Okay, so what is QuickBooks? Looks like majority of you know, but for the viewers who will be viewing this at a later time, let's discuss it. So what is QuickBooks, and how do businesses use it? So the main category is managing sales and income. So it makes it really easy, and has a very nice layout to kind of managing your company or companies, and how much income, and also keep track of the bills and expenses. That's a huge one. It also allows for key reporting insights to your business based off of the previous two features. And also it allows you to run payroll. So these are huge, specifically for small business, mid-sized businesses. I would say even for enterprise businesses. So QuickBooks will make any of these categories really easy. Of course, there's more features, but I think that these are the key highlights to QuickBooks, and why you would use it. So let's move forward. So what are the applicable versions of QuickBooks for the Web Connector? And I need to highlight for the Web Connector specifically. So let's move forward. So the QWC file uses the desktop version. So these are the available ones, including America, Canada, UK editions. I did a little bit of research in the Canadian edition. I don't think I did enough on the UK edition, but I believe that the QuickBooks Connector for Canada, it doesn't just stop at 2009. It just needs the desktop version is the important piece of this QWC file, which we'll be showing momentarily. So let me know if you got questions on these at the end of the Q&A. I think this is probably the most asked about, like what kind of versions are we actually able to use and what's allowed. But we also have an alternative method at the end, which I'll point out. So that's the desktop versions. Okay, so what are the features of the QuickBooks Web Connector? Let's move forward. The features I'll list out is mainly transferring the customers from QuickBooks to GreenRope as contacts. So that's vital because you will already have had a collection of customers who, through various methods are paying customers or will be paying customers. And so the QuickBooks Web Connector allows you to easily transfer them right away as the contacts are placed in QuickBooks straight to GreenRope. Another feature is transferring invoices from QuickBooks to GreenRope, and I'll show you that later as well. But as many of you may or may not know, but we do have an invoice section associated with specific contacts. So that's where it will be placed. And moving forward, the actual automation feature, which is a interval that allows you to set it and forget it. And that feature is awesome because once you have the QWC file running, you don't need to monitor it or do any type of maintenance on it. It should just work flawlessly as you open up QuickBooks and GreenRope. So it's got an interval to do so. Let's move forward. Okay, so using the Web Connector, it's really easy, and can't wait to show you. That's probably one of the basic features of the QWC connector. All right, so let's move forward. So using QuickBooks with GreenRope. So you'll synchronize your contacts and invoices by downloading the available web connector located in your selected group. And I mentioned selected group because the group that the contacts will be synced with is going to be the group that you download the file for. So here it is. So we got like the import contacts, QuickBooks, and then we have these checkboxes, a couple of information. There's a couple places to download it, such as this like little URL or hyperlink, and then the big call to action button. So you do have the option to uncheck these at any time. So yeah, contacts, import, QuickBooks. Let's move forward. So let's get started. So how do we actually use the connector? All right, so I have a series of slides. I think this probably is the more efficient way because I'll be able to just point out specific things. So we start in contacts, imports. So imports is a category within contacts, which brings you to default, the file option or tab. And so we have a dedicated tab for this QWC file. So entering QuickBooks, you should clicking that and selecting the download QuickBooks QWC file or from that little hyperlink. So what it should have now downloaded is this specific file. So it's QuickBooks sync.qwc. So now upon actually clicking it, you should, well, this happened for me. It basically asks for some authorization. So this is from GreenRope, just to make sure that this is something that you want to do. I'm not sure if everyone experiences this. Maybe it's just like a Windows thing. But, you know, it makes sense to, you know, actually ask. So we go ahead and click OK. And so then this file or this window will pop up. So the QuickBooks Web Connector. So right now it would say no application currently registered. So at this point, you will click the Add an Application button. Doing so will bring up that web connector again, bring up the window that has the file within it. So you go ahead and click that. It asked me again to do some approvals. So having had done this, I chose yes whenever this QuickBooks company file is open. Now I didn't have a slide for this, but you would have in QuickBooks you would have companies that you already have associated, and so that would be, in my case, GreenRope is what I added as a company. So that's what it's actually synchronizing with right now in these approval processes. So I went ahead and just clicked yes whenever and then moved forward. So I had chosen to use this integration app for the company file for GreenRope for whenever this QuickBooks file is open. So basically, whenever the application is open, I am automatically approving for the access to do so. So I went ahead and said done. And what will happen is it's probably going to open up your QuickBooks already. And then this window will appear. More importantly, what happens is the application will appear here. And so to do any of these options, you would have to click this checkbox. Clicking that checkbox requires you to enter your password. So the password is not the QuickBooks password, but for your GreenRope account, and specifically the main account. So doing that will get you logged in, and And let's move forward. Automatically, it should start the sync, and you'll see the status. So it'll clarify the last run, the last result, when is the next run, and you can see it's in an hour interval. So at that time, it's 10:58, and then the next time would be 11:58. It has the default setting, which is set to an hour. That can be modified. I think 1 hour is a good amount of time, simply because it requires processing power when the connector runs. And so that it possibly, depending on computing speed, would, I don't know, would be too much if it was ran too often. So an hour is, I think, a pretty a decent time frame. So then here it would give you the application progress. Right now it went to 100%. So there is a manual way to do these updates, and it is by clicking the update selected. So got to have the check mark running and everything clear to go. But once you do that, then it should run on the status and the application progress to 100%. Just for your information as well, there is an ability to view the log, because essentially what is happening is a transcript of like a conversation between the two applications that transfers your contacts to GreenRope. So there is a log and history of that, just if you want to see the technical side. Am I missing something? Oh yeah, and then of course, like any other options such as the troubleshooting help, and you can also remove the connector at this point. And that is it for the web connector. It is a simple process, nothing too crazy. Just got to make sure that you have logged into those well, that's connected to the QWC file. And at that point, you're done. And so you could exit out of the application. So all done, yeah. So synchronization will occur every 60 minutes or an hour while the web connector is loaded and QuickBooks is open. So it's important to have QuickBooks open in order for the web connector to actually do the process of synchronizing your contacts and also your invoices. All right. So I did mention that there are other methods. I would specify it's actually just another method, not multiple. So that would be done using Zapier. And Zapier is a free application in Zapier.com that you can sign up for. And when you have your free account, you'll be able to synchronize different applications. So in this case, we have QuickBooks Online set to connect this app. And we also have GreenRope in the action side. So this is a trigger and action relationship. So the one that I chose just for the example purposes is a new payment occurs in QuickBooks. So then in GreenRope, you would have the action, which is to add a contact. There are other options, but I think this is probably the most applicable. If you get a payment on QuickBooks, you can just go ahead and add that contact to GreenRope. So that just that requires the mapping, which basically is connecting your QuickBooks, letting the trigger know what to do, and then logging into the main account of the GreenRope, and also mapping out the contact. So like the first name and the last name and anything that can be transferred over. So that is QuickBooks Online. one thing I do need to mention is that it does require Zapier Premium. I believe it's just how QuickBooks wants to actually integrate. It requires this other subscription for Zapier, and also just to once again, it's QuickBooks Online for this version that would be connected through Zapier. So QuickBooks Online. All right, so yeah, told you that was short and sweet, not overly complex. Just getting that file to the appropriate group. It's basically setting up all the authorizations, logging into QuickBooks and running the connector for the first time, in which at that point you can then set it and forget it.